Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Prof. Yan. My name is Muhammad Rizky Kifari as the second presenter of the language change. Yeah. Okay. Here are the main focuses in this chapter. I will try to explain about the first one, language change and linguistic marketplace. And the second one, the process of change, and the next is change from above and below. And the fourth one is social network theory and language change. And the last part is lexical diffusion. Okay, let's start for the first one, language change and the linguistic marketplace. Linguistic marketplace is what do individuals want and what will they accept or reject linguistically to satisfy these wants. As the introduction to Bourdieu in 1991 on page 57, he says that linguistic utterance or expressions are always produced in particular contexts or markets, and the properties of these markets endow linguistic products with value. On a given linguistic market, some products are valued more highly than the others, and part of the practical competence of speakers is to know how and to be able to produce expressions which are highly valued on market concerns. Okay, the next is there are three parts that we will learn in linguistic marketplace. For the first one is the linguistic marketplace refers how to language is used in the give and take of social interaction. And the second one is a close examination of the social context of each change also reveals the particular segment of the community which is most involved in that change and possible motivation for the involvement. And the last part is this kind of motivations can be various, to try to be like a higher social group or less like a lower one, to mark yourself from the outsiders and to achieve a feeling of solidarity. Let's see, focus from the outsiders and the solidarity with the others, or to react to the pressures of the linguistic marketplace. Okay, the next part is the role of women in language change. Okay, this is not I found this material inside the language market, which is women may be more active participant than men in some change, but the situation may be reversed in others because women's inequality is built into the family and it continues in the workplace, where women are constantly confronted with a double bind. Thus, one might expect that some gender differences in language are more resistant to small scale economic differences. In particular, the common claim that women are more expressive with language, according to Settle in 1983, resides in deeper differences than the vagaries of the local economy. Okay, the next is the second part of the language change, the process of change. Labov adds that careful surveys of the current state of affairs also enable a good deal of the past to be reconstruct from the present if we look into the matter deeply enough. Noted from the 1981 on page 196. That is, the relationship between diachronic historical, let's see, focus on the historical matters, and synchronic descriptive. We have two focuses in this process of change. One is two-way relationship, and there is what Lebov calls a dynamic dimension to synchronic structure. So it means that the past helps to explain the present, and the present helps to explain the past. So it has connected one and another. Okay. The next part is change from above and below. According to Lebov, 1972, on page 178 until 180, there are two basic kinds of change. The first one is change from above. That is change brought about consciously. And the second one, change from below. That is change from conscious awareness. Okay. So I can conclude that change from above is sporadic, conscious, and involves issues of prestige. Since change from above is conscious change, we might expect such change to involve a movement toward standard linguistic norms. Change from above maybe not actually be initiated within the highest social group in society. This is a kind of group of reference group to groups lower down in the social scale, and it is among these groups, particularly slightly lower ones, that such change begins. And for the change from below is systematic, unconscious change. And change from below is unconscious and away from existing norms. Okay, the next part, I will try to explain a little bit about social network theory and language change. Okay, let's see. The focus from this kind of material based from the Milroy's statement in 1992. The key lies in network ties with strong ties. Change is slow, but weak ties can lead to rapid change. So let's see, focus on the strong ties and weak ties. The strong ties have a little bit change in the language change, but the weak ties can lead in a big change in society. New forms are adopted by innovators with weak ties to more than one group. Some of these innovations are taken up by core members of the groups, and then the change results happen. Milroy's say that the groups linked internally, mainly by relatively weak ties, are susceptible to innovation, and add that innovations between groups are generally transmitted by means of weak rather than strong network ties. So the weak ties have a big part in the language change, because through the weak ties we will meet the casual acquaintances rather than kin, close friend, or workmates that will change the language. Okay, the next material is about the lifestyle and language change. Yeah, Eckert says, or Eckert says about his findings in those years until 2040 and 4 from her study, or what she calls jokes and burnouts in an almost exclusive white suburban Detroit high school, add a further perspective to the study of language change with the concepts of lifestyle. So we will focus on the accurate finding to see how the lifestyle change the language. Okay, let's focus on his findings. Jokes are either middle class students or students with middle class aspirations, and burnouts are either working class students or students who wish to identify themselves. Jokes tend to be college bound and white collar oriented. However, burnouts will leave school for the blue collar workplace, and jokes willingly participate in the activities of the school. And in this case, burnouts will find activities outside school more attractive. So, we must note that only about 1/3 of the students readily identify themselves as either jokes or burnouts, but the majority learn one way or the other, although they might describe themselves as in-betweens. Okay, from the research, we know that a community of practice is an aggregate of people who come together around some enterprise. And Eckert says in 2000s on page 35, united by this common enterprise, people come to develop and share ways of doing things, ways of talking, beliefs, values, in short practices. As a function of their joint engagement in activity, so the jokes and the burnouts had entirely different communities of practice and norms of behavior. So the next part, or the last part in this material in language change, is the lexical diffusion. Okay, according to Wang, have proposed a theory of change called lexical diffusions. According to this theory, a sound change spreads gradually through the words in which the change applies. Labov's view of lexical diffusions is that it has only a very limited role to play in change. He says there is no evidence that lexical diffusions is the fundamental mechanism of sound change. So, Labov states that lexical diffusion has a little part in this language change because it has relations in the sound of change, in the change of sounds, I mean. And then in 2007, he has also tried to sharpen the difference between what he calls the transmissions of change and the diffusions of change. He proposed that the contrast between the transmissions of change within the language and diffusions of change across language is the result of the two different kinds. So he said that the transmissions and the diffusions of change is different. So he focused on learning transmission is a product of the acquisitions of language by young children. So the learning transmissions about above say the learning transmissions is focused in the young children, and the limitations of diffusions are the results of the fact that the most language contacts largely between and among the adults, and the diffusions is focused in the adults. Quoted in 2007 on 349 page. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you for your participation. If you have questions, we will try to answer it in the next section. Of course, in the online class. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.